I'll be talking on the setting up a corneal ectasia screening and the management clinic. So, why corneal ectasia and what is the importance of corneal ectasia? What are the equipment that is mandatory if you want to get referrals for screening for ectasia? And what is the management equipment needed and the algorithm? Just quickly. Now, why is it so important? Why are we talking so much about ectasia? In 2005, I think a jury awarded $7.25 million for a post-LASIK ectasia patient because the patient said that it could have been anticipated. So we know that, it is really that important. It's really dreaded, and its incidence, though it's said to be 1 in 2,500, I think it's probably underreported, as many surgeons would not be reporting their, complications. And also now coming to keratoconus, so if you compare to the rest of the world, the keratoconus prevalence is very high in India, and also it's presenting at a younger age and progressing more rapidly. What are the equipment you need? Now, Rishi's already talked about this in detail. I think if you are just starting out, a topographer is fine. But if you intend to, build up your referral practice, because a lot of patients are also referred to me sometimes by, whether is this patient fit for LASIK, a second opinion, either the patient himself is coming or sometimes a general ophthalmologist is sending. Then I think a tomographer is important, definitely is utmost importance. And ASOCT, again, Rishi's shown. I put it like lower below because epithelial mapping is a new kid on the block, but it is not mandatory. You can run your clinic, without that if you do not have that. Now, looking at detection and screening, again, I'm going to rush through this. Rishi's talked about it. The placido-based topography. If you're, these are the factors that you look for. And pentacam, of course, you're going to be looking at posterior elevation and the pad display. Progression of keratoconus is very important to also define. Sometimes the patient comes and he's been advised cross-linking elsewhere or not sure. I think make sure that you're seeing increase in corneal curvature. It's not and when you're doing it on the same instrument, if either there is increase in curvature or decrease in pachymetry. Now, building up referral practice, as I was saying, these are the kind of referrals that can come to you, which are currently, which I'm definitely seeing a lot. Patients coming for second opinion, being referred by the surgeons. Cases of post-LASIK ectasia, the patient himself coming or the surgeon sometimes sending. Cases of keratoconus, this cross-linking needed or not, sending, patient being sent. And progression post cross-linking also. Oftentimes, the surgeon is confused or the patient is not sure, then these patients can be referred to you if you, have a good eye for picking up all of this. I just want to share a few clinical examples. This was a 34-year-old male architect. He came to, it was actually a third opinion for LASIK fitness. This is the the pentacam pictures. You can see the topography is completely fine and the pachymetry is pretty good. But you look at the bad display, it looks abnormal. Now, we know that if there's a thicker cornea, you can get this. So, by and large, I would not say that this is, a big red flag for doing LASIK. This is his other eye. But when you looked at the corneal and looked at the corneal endothelium, and this is what I found, like Guttate, and then that was the red flag. So, I think the takeaway, from this patient is that no refractive surgery definitely to be done for this patient. A similar patient, if there's no Guttate, like I said, I think that bad display probably is just because of the thicker cornea. And in this patient, I would get specular microscopy done and not do LASIK because we know that corneal biomechanics would be weak. Now, this is another case was referred. She was an ENT surgeon. She was a third opinion, like her treating LASIK surgeon actually sent her to me for another opinion because I was not sure whether I should go ahead or not. And this was her refraction and 6.5 and with a 2.5. And this is her, corneal image, topographic image. Cornea is steep, but not that steep. Good corneal thickness, a little bit ectasia or posterior ectasia seen, not too bad. Again, here steeper cornea. Now, this patient, she had an iris coloboma in one of her eyes, and then being an ENT surgeon, somehow I was not comfortable, advising LASIK in her and maybe PRK. I sent her back to the primary surgeon who then did the PRK in her, and she's doing well now. This is the third case post LASIK ectasia where cross-linking was done elsewhere and again advised to repeat cross-linking and we again referred here for another opinion. This is the patient's pentacam images. You can see that there is a steepening inferiorly. cornea thickness is quite less. So, and this patient just doing a cross-linking already in a post LASIK, it's not really going to help so much. So decided to do an Intacs. It was planned Intacs and did the Intacs. We did a SK Intacs for her, and she did really well. The vision improved. In fact, uncorrected to 6.9. The single ring was put inferiorly, and her corneal topography also, as you can see, has improved. So takeaway, like, if the patient is coming with post-LASIK ectasia, already cross-linked once, good corneal thickness is less, decentered cone, these are all really good cases for doing Intacs. Now, like, if you like more and more of these cases, as you start giving your, opinions, they can be built up for referral. Now, algorithm for ectasia management, if the patient is being now also sent to you for management, you should know that. I think it all depends on whether it is progressive, the keratoconus, or it is not progressive. And along with that, what is important is the vision. I think oftentimes we forget the vision of the patient. The patient comes and we just cross-linking, not cross-link the patient, not really bothered. Is the patient vision improving? What are we doing for that? So I think very important to look at the vision and then your corneal thickness. If the patient is not progressing, has good vision, then you can just monitor it, the topography. If the patient is not happy with the vision, at that point you can still consider doing something. Now the patient is progressing and again the vision is good, then you can only cross-link it, the patient. But if the patient vision is not good, he's not happy, then depending on the corneal thickness, you can either do a trans PRK with cross-linking, or you can put an Intacs. And of course, if it's very severe, you need to do a DALC or PK. That's another thing which you can offer as a cornea surgeon. Equipment, the various corneal cross-linking machines. Is the basic machine enough? Do we need, like, a lot of us have machines which were older, which is doing only the, like not the accelerated protocol? Do we need to buy an accelerated machines? Are machines available on hire? I think so much of confusion on that. So just, I think we'll move forward quickly. About cross-linking, I think Dresden is the basic protocol which was done in where, after the corneal epithelium has been removed, for 30 minutes, riboflavin is put inside the patient's cornea, and then the UV light is shown for 30 minutes. And this showed very good results. Now, accelerated again was thought to be quicker, faster, but results showed that there was, because oxygen was probably depleted faster, that the results are probably more, predictable in the Dresden versus accelerated protocol. And this is our own results where we have compared the cross-linking, but we have used 9 milliwatts in the accelerated. We have divided the two groups. The corneal curvature goes down if you're doing only cross-linking very well. Here, you can see this is 6 years post cross-linking. This is TPRK with cross-linking, where, of course, it's going down a lot more because we are also changing the corneal shape. These are just going through this in running short of time. So I think Dresden protocol, which if we have a basic machine, it is very reliable. We not really need to go to like any fancy equipment. We can, if you want to plan a topo-guided treatment, then you can do it at any LASIK center which is close to your house and then close to your institute. Sorry, and you can then do your cross-linking, because cross-linking machines are also available on hire now. So that's not a big investment that you need to make. So I think basic machine is enough. Do we need machines with accelerated if you already have the basic? No. And all machines available on hire, if you don't have any machine at all, then yes. So moving on to Intacs, I've already talked about that. So this is another patient of Intacs. I'll just quickly show this was a young boy, in fact, with allergic disease in both eyes and severe keratoconus with thin corneas. We've done his Intacs in the eyes with the more severe keratoconus. It did really well. This was the patient which I had shown earlier, the single ring which I inserted. And of course, if the patient's cornea is really thin and you cannot do anything, then you can always do DALC. So I'd like to conclude by saying that, it's important that you look at the entire patient's, your vision and all the parameters, not just, jump into treating the patient. Thank you so much for your attention.